Now that we have it set up so that we are pulling questions from the Trivia API and we have our answers randomized here and everything is good to go from that particular standpoint, what I want to do is start setting this up so that we can start answering the questions. Now, because there are a lot of moving parts in this, we're just going to take it step by step. Before we get into the total remaining correct, incorrect, or what have you, I want to start very simply by being able to click one of these answers and making this question change to the next question out of the 10 that we have coming from the API. So let's go ahead and start doing that. Now, if we head into the code and we go over to the page that we're displaying this from, which is the resources pages welcome.view, and we go all the way down to the bottom where we are looping over these random answers. We have an answer here. I'm going to use this button to click, and that click event is going to do something, right? So let's go ahead and say @click. And then all I want to do is say guess, because that's what we're actually doing, right? We're just guessing whether or not an answer is correct. Since we're looping over the random answers, we can specify which of those answers is the one that we are using to guess. So we can pass that in through there. And I also want to put prevent on here, just so that it doesn't do any wonky things with the JavaScript. So let's go up to where we have our functions. I want to put that function, which is to guess. And in the guess, we can pass in the answer. So for now, all I want to do is console log out what that answer is. And we'll see what happens on the front end. So in here, I'm just going to open up the inspection tools. And I'm going to refresh just so that we have it clear. We have our questions, and I'm going to also comment out this a bit later, but for now I do want to keep it here. Let's go ahead and click one. And as you can see, that's the answer. If we click another random one, then as you can see, we get that answer, so forth and so on. And we can continue to click these. And that's really not the type of functionality that we want. What we want to be able to do is guess one of these answers, and then that will move to the next question. So how exactly can we do that? Well, if we open up this list here, as I said, we have these coming in as an array, and these questions are actually in the index of questions. It's the first one that is in the first index of all of these 10 questions that we have coming in. So all we really need to do is now move from this first index to the next index. Let's go and do that. Well, to do that very simply, if we go up to where we have our variables, we have this current question index right here. And it is starting at 0 because that's how we set it up, just to show the first one first. Let's come down here. And what we can do is, well, I'll get rid of that. What we can do is do current question index dot value. And all we need to do is increase it by 1. That's what the plus plus is. It's just adding 1 to it. So let's do this. Let's save that. And then let's see what we have. Go ahead, refresh. And we'll open this up for reference. So the question is, which is the largest lake in South America? That's what we have here. If I close the first one and open up the second one, which Roman emperor followed Claudius, right? If I go ahead and just click any one of these, it doesn't matter whether it's right or wrong. If I click it, it has now changed that question to the next question. So if I continue to click, it will just continue to move down this array to the next question. We have something to work with here, right? So now we're able to move through our array using these answers here. And we can go all the way to the very end. Let's see what happens there. Well, there's nothing left, right? That's fine. At least we have something here to let us know that we have reached all of the 10 questions from the list of 10 that we have. I'm going to refresh this. The next thing that we can do before we get into the correct or incorrect, I might space this out a little bit better, we'll see. But what I want to do is I want to add from this request that we have, I want to change up these numbers so that as we click stuff, then we can see how many we have versus how many that were remaining. Because as you can see, as we got to 10, we had nothing left. So we should now have some sort of numerology to let us know what's going on in here. Well, the easiest one that we already have without having to actually do anything is the count of questions. If we come down here, we can say the questions.length, and that'll give us the total amount of questions. Let me do this so that we have something. Let's see, space x5. We'll try that and see what that looks like. Okay, let's check the browser. So that looks a little bit better. But now we can also grab this remaining count and we can do a computer property to do that. Computer properties are good because it will update the DOM based on something happening. For us, clicking a button will activate the computer property to change along the way. Now to do that really simply, we'll just go up to I can close this because we're going to be on the same page. But here, I'll create another computed property. And this one, I'm just going to call it remaining count. And all we're going to do here is we are going to return, and then we are going to take the total amount of questions that we have, which is the questions value length, and then we are going to subtract it by the current question index dot value. This number will be whatever the total amount of questions that we have, and then we're going to subtract it by whatever it is in the index. So if we're on the first one in the index, then it'll be questions.value minus 0. And if we are in the second one, it'll be questions.value.length minus 1. Remember, arrays typically start with their first value starting at 0. That's why we are starting our index at 0, and that's why we're moving up, and we're only really going to be moving up to 9 in the array instead of 10 because the count actually starts at 0. So we can take this remaining count and use that computed property in that field that we have down here, and I have lost it, which it's right here, and this will be remaining count. And I'm going to take this as well so that we can have a little bit of space in there. Okay, and let's go and see if this works. Go ahead, refresh, and we have a little bit of an overlap. That's fine. I will fix that a bit later. Can I move this? Yeah. So I'll move it over a little bit so we can see it better. In the Marvel, well, it doesn't really matter. As I said, we don't have correct or incorrect. We do, but it's not counting for anything. But let's go and click stuff, and as you can see, the remaining now works. Well, why don't we start by also adding in the correct value? Well, let's go ahead, back up to our variables, and then we can create 2 more. So this is going to be correct score. And we are going to start that off at 0. And then this one is going to be the incorrect score. And also set that to 0. If we go down here, let's see where we are displaying those. First, let's do it in here. So the correct score. Copy that. And then I'm going to paste that here, and this one is going to be incorrect. I also want to add that, what do we have up here? We have space x5, and I'll add those here. We'll just start there and see how we do. Now, our correct score and our incorrect score should start at 0. Now, how are we going to change this? Well, how about when we click the button and we go to answer, if it is the correct answer that we've chosen, then we will up the correct score. If it is the incorrect one, then we will up the incorrect score. So let's go ahead and do that in the guess function right here. So to do this really simply, we'll just make it conditional, and I'm going to do it as else. So we'll say if the answer that we're getting when we click that button equals the current question, not index, but current question.value.correct answer, because that is something that we are getting from that request, then we'll take the correct answer dot value and we'll increase it by 1. Else, we'll take the incorrect answer and increase that one by 1. And either way, we are moving through the list of questions. We're moving through the index. So let's see how that's going to work. I'm going to go ahead and refresh this. And as you can see, everything's at 0. Yeah, that looks trash. It's fine. I will fix that later. But which of these cities is in Canada? Quebec. Okay, so we're getting an error here. Let's see what it is. Correct answer is not defined. Okay, well, let's go and see what that's about. Correct answer. Did I not? Current question. Let's just make sure that we're getting this from the Vue Dev Tools. So we have welcome in here. Open that up. We take a look at the questions. Current question, correct answer, Quebec, and incorrect. Okay, let's look again. Ah, because I put correct score instead of answer. Let's fix these. And it's highlighted too, so I should have noticed that, but either way, here we are. So let's open this again. We'll go to console, we'll refresh it, and let's try it again. From which part of the world do plums originate? You're incorrect. Which film contains the character Phyllis Dietrichson? Phyllis? I'm going to say Double Indemnity. So I got one right, and then I have one wrong. In which country would you find the pyramids of Giza? Egypt? What do the letters not safe for work mean? Not safe for work. What is the name of the communication method representative by a series of dots and dashes? Dots and dashes. Binary? Which Dr. Seuss character heard a small noise in the jungle? I don't know. Horton? Horton hears a who. Either way, you can see we're getting this to be represented the way it's supposed to. So very good. Now I want to handle it so that once we get to the end, something happens instead of it showing, just the loading. So let's go ahead and do that. Well, right now we have it set to either have the questions with the answers or a loading state. What we can actually do is create another state so that we can have a button to reset the quiz or do whatever it else is that we want. So I'm going to grab this and I'm going to put v-else instead of v-else here. I'm going to put v-else if equals loading because we already have our loading state being taken care of. And then I'm going to grab this and I'm going to make another one. And instead of v-else if loading, this can be the final state of v-else. And we'll just say, congrats, you won, or something like that. We'll change that up in a bit and we'll add a button so that we can reset the quiz. But I just want to make sure that this is going to be shown instead of the loading when we do that. So let's make sure to save that. And now we have the loading state, right? So I'm going to go ahead and refresh. We'll answer a bunch of questions. Doesn't matter if we get them right or wrong. Congrats, you won. So now that's in place of loading. But if we refresh, we have loading. Let's go ahead and sort it out so that we have a button to basically reset the quiz if we have reached the end of it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm also going to use the card content. And can I do auto import? Yep, card content. Card content. And then what I'm going to do is add a class in here of just text center. Inside of it, I am actually going to be using that button from, where's that button from? That button is from Shad UI, something like that. We'll go ahead and do that. And the only class I want on here is cursor pointer. And in here, all I want to do is say play again. That's what's going to be in the button. On this button, I'm going to add a click event. And this one will just be reset quiz. Okay, and let's just make sure that this button is in here and something seems to be wrong, but I'm not quite sure what it is. We've imported the card content and then we also need to import that button. Button from, where's that button? Components, UI, button, button. And here, instead of card, it'll be button, button. Let's go and check the browser, make sure we didn't mess up, and then we'll create that function. Oh, I forgot to close that off. I knew there was something, I just couldn't see it. Save that. Okay, so if we click a bunch of these, we have this congrats you won, creating vnode, something happened. Is it because we don't have the card content from card content.view, and it should be up here. Card content.view. I really don't know what that's about. But anyway, let's go ahead and reset the quiz and then we'll get back to this if it's still an issue. I'm going to come down here. We've called it reset quiz. And the reset quiz is basically going to be that. It's just going to reset a bunch of values for us. So the first value that I want to reset is the questions.value. I want to set this to an empty array so that that array will be completely empty. We will make another call to the questions function, get questions, and then we can have new values in those questions.value. We also need to reset the correct score. We'll set that back to 0. We'll set the incorrect score back to 0. And then we'll also set the current question index.value back to 0. And that should be good. Let's go and check the browser and see what else I may or may not have broken. Go ahead, refresh, and we will try to click. Congrats, you won. Play again, click, and then everything has been set back. And then we have a new set of 10 questions. That is pretty much working as intended. Now, something I want to do too is I want to change the difficulty level of this because I'm not sure what the default is. So I want to specify exactly what it is. Now, for that to happen, all we need to do is go into where we're making the Axios request. And as part of the query, after limit equals 10, we can put ampersand difficulties equals, well, I'll say medium. You can set it to hard. Medium's not too bad, but I'll go ahead and save that and let's try it again. Let's see if I can beat my high score of 30%. What was the name of the empire founded by Osman I around 1300 AD? The Ottoman Empire. 1953, Stalin died, who ultimately succeeded him as a leader of the Soviet Union. I believe it was, nope. Okay, which food brand is associated with the marketing slogan, have a break? Give me a break. Which ethnic group of people living in Congo's Ituri forest are the shortest in the world with an average height of around 4'8"? Pygmies. Which word borrowed from Spanish means insane? Insane. Loco. What was the name of the first atomic bomb used in combat? Was it Hiroshima? No. What does the flag of Vietnam look like? Ooh, good question. Blue with a yellow cross. Blue, I don't think it's this one. Red with a yellow star in the center. I think it's this one. What is the name of the fictional company owned by Batman? Wayne Enterprises. Which country is a cluster of valleys located in the Pyrenees? Is it Andorra? In Polynesia, what are the 2 times it's most customary to place a lei around someone's neck? When they leave and when they arrive. Congrats, you won. Play again. Then we've been brought back. Cool. So why don't we also show like a final score or something, some sort of percentage on that little card where we had the button, the reset button. Well, we can create a final score computed property and do it that way. And this way, anything that we need to do within that final score, we can do it right through the computed property. And here, all we need to do is return the correct score value. So whatever that number is, and we can multiply it by 10. And that'll give us a percentage. Let's go down to that card, which is right here. I am going to change the text to Excel just so that it's a bit bigger. Congrats. And then here, instead of you won, we can say, here is your final score. We can create p tags again, and then we can put the final score here. That should be good. Hard header, there's our button. Save that, and let's go and check the browser and make sure we got a final score. Go ahead, refresh. Who wrote The Ugly Duckling and the Emperor's New Clothes? I want to say Hans Christian Andersen. Who won the Grammy Song of the Year award in 1970 for the song Bridge Over Troubled? Is it Paul Simon? Well, what was the gang name of John Travolta and his cohorts in the movie Grease? Ugh. Great question. These were the late, I think it's a T-Birds. What is the name of the popular relishes of spices and fruits that often accompany Indian food? Indian food. I'm gonna say chutney. Who wrote the Canterbury Tales? Geoffrey Chaucer. Which word is used to describe early achievement in children? Precocious. Which Aerosmith song was remade by Run DMC? Which band had a 1985 #1 hit with the single I Want to Know What Love Is? I want you to show me. What did Marie Curie die of? Radiation poisoning. And which of these is a soccer team based in Seattle? Oh, we did this before, didn't we? I'm going to say Flyers. Hey, congratulations, your score is 90%. Let's go and put that percent. Now, in the repo that I have given you guys, everything that I've given you so far, I have included where is it? An assets folder. And this assets folder has a GIF that we are going to include, and it's just some confetti that's bouncing up and down here. I can't remember exactly where I got this from. It's either Pixabay. It's probably Pixabay that I got this from, but either way, you can pick whatever you want, but I have included it in the repo, so you guys do have access to this at this point, which is something that you can put into your projects. Let's go ahead and set it up so that when we finish the quiz, we have this little confetti thing that happens once we finish the quiz. Let's go ahead and take care of that. Now, to start us off, I want to create another variable, and this one I'm going to call completed. This one is just going to start off as false. And what we're going to do is we're also going to leverage the styling to include that GIF so it's only shown when we are using it. So what I do want to make sure that you have is when you have that folder, I have put it in the storage app public folder. Where is it? I've created an images folder, and this is the GIF that I have now. So this is where you want to make sure you have that. We might need to run a command after, but let's give it a try and see where we are currently with this. So we have completed, and then I want to make a computed property, of course, because they are our friend. And our computed property, I'm going to call it has completed. Now this has completed will just return the completed value equals true if the remaining count value is less than or equal to 0. And if it's not, then the remaining count value will be greater than or equal to 0. So let me read that far more clearly than what I just did. So this has completed computed property is going to return the computed value of true if the remaining count value is less than or equal to 0. If it is not less than or equal to 0, if it is greater than or equal to 0, then the completed value will be returned false. So now when we go to reset, we can put the completed value. We'll just reset it to false. So that's just what we're going to have there. It's going to be based on whether or not the remaining count value is above or less than 0. So now what we want to do is come down to this div right here, because this is the div that holds everything in the background, holds everything. It holds the header that we have. It holds all the cards that we have. So we want to make it so that the background of this, and actually, no, I need to get to the end, open that, and I'm going to bind some classes in here. How we're going to do this is conditionally. So if has completed returns true, then we want to show the image. If it comes back false, then we don't want to show the image. I am going to put in some curly brackets in here. And then we're going to use Tailwind to do this. Tailwind has this class where you can do BG, URL, and now we can just point to where our URL is. So for me, it'll be in storage, images, and then it's celebration. I probably should have renamed this, but here we are, 19390_256.gif. Or GIF, however you want to call it. I don't genuinely care. Then we want to come outside of the bracket, both the curly and the straight bracket. And then I just want to put BG, no repeat, so that it's not constantly repeating across the screen. And then I want to put the BG as the cover so that it takes up the whole space. We're only going to display that if has completed is true. Let's go and see if this works, and let's see if we have to run that special command. And if not, I'll show you what it is anyway, but let's go and give this a try. Go ahead, refresh. And I'm already seeing forbidden, so that's fine. Let's just go through it and see what happens. Not reading any of these, but we don't see the image. What's happening is because in some instances, depending on how you installed Laravel, how you created the project, this images folder, storage app, public images folder isn't quite connected to the project. So I'm going to close these up. And if you open this up, you see we don't have any kind of link. We don't have link to that storage folder. I'm going to open up another terminal. And in here, for me, I'm going to do PHP artisan storage link. And what this will do is it'll connect that public folder to our storage folder so that the images that we have can be linked to the front end. If you're using Sail, you might need to do Sail artisan link. I genuinely can't remember if when you do this with Sail, it runs that command for you anyway. But in my case, because I'm just using PHP with Composer and stuff on my system, this is something that I have to do. So let's check the browser and see if that works. I'm going to go ahead, refresh that. And as you can see, those were the confetti. There's our confetti. And if we click play again, then our confetti is gone. Why don't we also set this up? I'm going to set this up so that this is a little bit better oriented. So where is that? Okay, so off screen, I just made some changes to the styling so that it looks a little bit better. And if we were to open and close this, then there's only so much you could do. I just wanted to make it clearly visible so that you guys could see it a lot better. All I did was basically take the settings that we have, which is something that you already have. And then I made those available for when the screen is large. And then if it's smaller, then you're going to have flex call, item center, text Excel, space Y5. So this is something that you can update your code to, as well as all of the other stuff that you have so far. If you're enjoying the content, please go ahead and click that like button, as it really does help out the channel. Here's a video YouTube thinks you'll like, and here's a playlist to follow along. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.